Well, they originally sold these vehicles here for quite some time. There was a deal between Russia and Canada where we were trading grain for vehicles, and that led to a myriad of dealerships across Canada. Smaller, but they're there. I got exposed as a little boy in a Garden City shopping center in the Maples. They had a display with Ladas, and again, I got to sit in sit in one of them. I was a little boy, so of course I dry shifted the transmission, and I really liked the way they looked. And as a kid, I had quite a number of Russian toy cars and kind of formed a bit of a fascination. And then much later in life, a gentleman I'd grown up with, his godfather had a dealership. He owned Monte Carlo Lada, Rocco. And he was gracious enough to help me master a 5-speed manual transmission. So it's a feel. You develop a feel over time, just learning when you downshift, to keep the car in a certain RPM range, because it doesn't have a whole lot of power. But I mean, if you have to move out of the way of something, you want to stay in your optimal gear. So, I don't know, for me, maybe a couple of months, every second weekend kind of thing, and I got really good. Well, for different markets, there were different things. In Europe and in Finland, in a number of places, they required indicators mounted within the fenders. Canadian market didn't dictate that, though I believe it was after 94, due to emissions regulations, they had to incorporate fuel injection to pass emissions. So there's that. I've got to change out my blower fan and my gaskets on my reservoir, but pumps are still good. Got a reusable air filter in there. Changed out the injectors. I've still got to do all these lines, and actually they're all in the trunk. I have all of that. But all in all, pretty clean considering it was a car that was used quite regularly. I believe 150,000 on it kind of thing. The odometer doesn't go that high, so just 50,000 forever, In this trim level, I believe it's right around 72 at the flywheel. But I mean, with a simple cam change and freer flowing exhaust, it'll produce over 100 easily. Iron block, iron head. The parts are definitely available. There's a font of parts all over the world. It's getting them. Poland isn't so bad. Ukraine was great up until not so long ago. But getting stuff from Russia right now is definitely not an easy thing. Postal services, I almost think delays are intentional. Things are getting lost in the mail. I'm hearing quite a lot of that. And me personally, 2,900 euros worth of parts, I had, they were lost, we'll say. And unfortunately, my postal insurance only covered $300 of that. But, they're like I said, if you're patient, internet searches, eBay's not carrying as much stuff, but I have a lot of stuff. But some of the things new, like that's an aftermarket injection polypropylene grill. It's flexible, new antenna, then timing chain, the belts, and then of course, your gasket set. But yeah, no, that's one thing I amassed some stuff. The gentleman that had it before me had a great collection of stuff like spare parts and whatnot, because that's essential. But incidentally, the injection system, everything's available here. Like I actually got fuel injectors from Part Source. I brought in what I had out of it, and they matched up what I needed. So that's something. I got most everything I need. I mean, I even, out of Berlin, I got a set of Bilstein shocks. I ordered them before I actually saw the price. I used my credit card. I'll never do that again. $4,000 US, but again, they make a difference. Progressive shock. But yeah, it's definitely something you can still keep moving, for sure. I mean, absolutely everything's available. The hardest things I'm finding are, I want to change my door seals. The rubber's kind of getting hard. And that, I'm at like 2109, the 4-door. Those gaskets are more readily available. I don't know if 2109 survive a little better than these, but you know, that's one. And then the windshield. I've got to bring the windshield in from Europe, and actually the company I'm looking at is in France, and that's about $400. So here's hoping. No, I want to get this pretty much restored back to original. I don't know, before snow hits the ground. That's my objective here. And then I'm looking at modification, because we've got a couple cars right now. I got, well, the Mirage and the Subaru Crosstrek, so I'm not needing to use it as a daily. So, you know, I can pull the engine out and take it down. Well, I had an incredible respect for the amount of engineering that went into a vehicle like this. And one of the things that I, you know, was quite well aware of is having friends from all over Europe, that both our climate and our roads aren't dissimilar to Russia in a lot of ways. Our roads are quite poor, and the suspension in this car is engineered to accommodate that, including no roads. Like, I've across the street actually gone down the hill and up the hill, and it was wet, but no problems. It'll pretty much go where you wouldn't think a car would go, and that was definitely something attractive. And then racing pedigree. I mean, these things were rallied both in Canada and Europe quite extensively because they're an affordable platform and they're quite robust. And then to the Paris-Dakar, even though the only true similarity was, I believe, the side mirrors and the taillights, everything else underneath was Porsche. But still, I remember watching that as a kid, seeing a Lada maintain 150 miles an hour in the sand. I'm like, I'm going to build that one day. Not realizing that that's hundreds of thousands. But still, it's always had a place in my heart, you know. And my late father, this is one of the cars we were working on together. So we'd always wanted to restore something. And he was the one that was with me when we were test driving these things relentlessly at Monte Carlo LADA. So, you know, unfinished business, you know. And, you know, like I said, the solar flare or some kind of environmental abnormality, this thing, even though it does have electronics, it actually has a fusible link within it. If there's a surge, one fuse, and I'm back and running. Well, brand new cars are no longer operational, so that's attractive, you know. And I like the way they handle. I mean, it's like I said, in between a Volkswagen and a Renault, you have a little bit greater suspension travel, it feels like. But at the same time, it'll hold the road. As long as you have reasonable tires, they will handle. You know, one of the ones that was run as a rally car here in Manitoba, I believe it's like open or unlimited class. So the Lada was racing against Mustangs, Camaros, Civics. And it maintained a spot between as good as 8, but right around 11, 12. And that's against anything. So, I mean, that definitely says something. I mean, they can be good little rally cars because of the robust nature, you know, and they're quite forgiving. So, essentially, I've got to track down a gentleman in Budapest that I had dealt with before, and I need to acquire a forged crankset and rods, a little bit greater internal strength. And then, yeah, I'm going to get a cylinder head made by him. Essentially, it's a single cam 8 valve, 1 intake, 1 exhaust. But valve job, double titanium valve springs, sodium filled valves. And, you know, I have a turbo manifold for it already. So some of the emissions has got to go. But, you know, it's a classic. So I'm hoping, though, with the internals and the turbo I want a streetable 350 horsepower at the wheels. I'd be happy, because I mean, curb weight on this, the way it sits, is 2,050 pounds. So 350 horsepower and the gear ratios it already possesses, it'll move. It'll surprise a lot of newer stuff. So I don't know if it's a North American mentality, but sometimes when something doesn't cost a lot of money, it's viewed as being disposable. And by the nature, these cars are designed to be maintained by their owners. So I think survival rate was low, because if you drove it 3 to 5 years, right, maybe needed paint, maybe needed some, you know, clutch, people would just turn them in or use it as a trade-in. You know, so I mean, a lot of them were thrown away, unfortunately, and it's sad because they're, like I said, it's a robust car. You know, I've seen a lot of LADAs, but again, like I said, my friend's godfather was a dealer, so, and there is a LADA club in Canada. I haven't maintained that, but the original owner was a part of it, and I have all that information. I do want to continue with that. Because you know, they are unusual on the road here, and I kind of like that. When you look at a parking lot nowadays, it's not hard to find this compared to everything else, right? Well, a lot of people that are building, you know, street-going race cars oftentimes do choose manual windows and manual locks. It's weight reduction and simplicity. I do have a power lock kit and a power window kit. I'm thinking about it, but I don't know. I'm on the fence. So one thing I'm going to do is air conditioning, because we get some good summers here. There's a few days where air conditioning is definitely something you don't want to be without, you know. And pets too. I've always had dogs, and you know, if you got to run in somewhere, having the air, so it's more comfortable for them too. So the one thing I would have loved is if they had the pop-out rear windows for ventilation, but at the same time, there's like leakage and then theft, right? Because, you know, if you have one of, I don't know, your kid, those little rubber bouncy balls, if you turn that on the knob, those things, the bolt comes out. Yeah, that's definitely a point of egress. Yeah, the only thing aftermarket is the steering wheel. Well, on the shifter boot, I couldn't actually source another shifter boot. I got that one from Italy, and it was a little Baba that was making stuff like this, and just from the dimensions and the size, that's actually well, top grain Italian leather, but it's for a Porsche 924 because they have the drawstring on the bottom, and that's how they're fixed in there, kind of thing. During its development, there were some reliability issues that were run into, both overheating and performance. The Porsche, the company itself, their engineers worked with LADA to develop a cylinder head, the 8-valve cylinder head, and it definitely made it a much more reliable car and pretty much solved all the issues. So it's interesting that it would have that kind of pedigree. A lot of people think more, you know, that Porsche developed the engine, but no. Come on, Natasha. You know Daddy loves you. My dad always called these things Natasha. Apparently that was something not uncommon. Oh, actually, I believe the Natasha was the convertible version. Because Rocco did have one in there. That's what he told me. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I gotta watch my coolant. It's kind of low in this, but you know, still, I always love the vacuum gauge. I don't know why. Your economy meter. But I mean, all in all, it needs a bit of a cleaning, but no rips in the upholstery. The dash, unfortunately, these things were quite subject to UV. They have a dash cap, but I might actually just restore it, because I was looking, you use contractor foam, right? Disassemble contractor foam, cut it down, and then rewrap it with a stretch vinyl. And I think that's almost a little nicer than just having a plastic cap that could lift or deform, you know? So, you don't want to get too hot. Ugh. Yeah, that's one thing. My water pump, I've been meaning to change that. Hopefully Sunday. Do all the lines, get some coolant in it, do an oil change. But yeah, this is definitely a keeper for me. It's all over the world, the automotive scene, you know. And the thing I love too, even in the Ukraine, there's a dedicated market to these. In the tuning scene, there's a group of people that have quite modified BMWs 5 Series using forced induction, and they'll build 2108s like this to chase them down, because it's quite infuriating, you know. Lada. Actually, something funny, the shifter knob, obviously not original, that is a BMW shifter knob from Estonia, from an Estonian dealership, leather wrapped. And I gotta say, the Canadian dollar went pretty, 14 bucks. I mean, you don't find that here, you know. Oh yeah, the little things. It's the little touches. Now, so like I said, hopefully this year I'll have it back to original, and you know, and then look at my road to modification after. What I'd love is to get another engine to build, and then it's a simple swap. You know, lift the car, drop it out from underneath, and so I'm gonna see if I can get myself another engine, because that would make life easier. I could have the original powertrain, and then, you know, build an engine. If I blow it up, I'm not gonna feel terrible. Hopefully not, though. But the thing is, they love to rev, but they only rev so far, you know, because I mean, your peak power, you're making right around 6,000 or so, you know what I mean, for horsepower, a little bit less for its peak torque. But yeah, I think there's only a handful of these left here. I mean, to my knowledge, less than 20 in Canada, you know, but I want mine back on the road, just spiteful, you know. The little Lada I gave you, that where was that? That was Kiev, the gentleman. He was a retired engineer. He made various different models and stuff for HO scale train boards. But he'd actually made a number of Ladas, and this was one of them. And he made them to spec, the color you wanted. But when things kicked off, you know, 2014, I believe 2015, his building, he owned a building, it was destroyed. So unfortunately, that 3D printing, yeah, there it is. I gave this to you, my friend. But yeah, that is 100% scale from an engineer. Oh, you will not see many of these. There you go, my friend. Not a lot of cars out there like this, and they're interesting. And I mean, in a lot of ways, they're. I would pit this against an American muscle car, one with a turbo on there, easily off-road. On a rally course, I'll eat a Camaro. You know, like I said, with the type of handling, the secret is knowing how to use your handbrake, really, right? You're going into a turn, downshift, give it a pop, and then slide through that corner. It's, believe it or not, incredibly predictable, you know? So, and there are definitely, like, a couple of years, I guess before COVID-19, you know, I had it outside. I was washing it. A gentleman came up. He was early 70s. He was a Polish gentleman, and he had one of these, a 2108, back in Poland, and he'd missed it. So I had it on temps. I actually let him drive it around the block a few times. He loved it, and he definitely wanted to take it off my hands. But I told him I've got to restore it. Like, maybe I don't keep it forever, but I need to have that sense of completion. You know, it definitely deserves it. It's survived a long time here, you know. So give it what it deserves. And again, I don't know, like, Ladas aren't synonymous with reliability, but they definitely have the capacity for it. You know, we were talking earlier, I told you one of the coldest days we'd had in 2016, minus 42 or so before the wind chill. It was minus 51 with the wind chill. I left this thing outside. My dad, as a joke, shoveled snow onto it, kind of thing, and you know, turned it into a proverbial ice cube. And you know what? It didn't even crank, really. It just did, and then going. And then the heater got up and warm. You know, I don't know. It's a good car. They're a lot better than what people give them credit for. And it's nice that something's designed to be fixed by the owner, you know? We live in a world of specialized tools and needing snakes and different jointed sockets to get at stuff. There's none of that with this, you know? I mean, not always the best hand space, but you can get a tool in there and it doesn't have to be specialized. So I appreciate that a lot. So